Hi, this is Laura Susan Johnson with Period Pieces, and today is November 2, so I'm a little bit late on my latest Halloween review. Today I'm going to review a movie called Near Dark. It is my very favorite vampire movie, directed by one of my very favorite directors, Kathryn Bigelow, who up until Zero Dark 30 was unnoticed by Hollywood, really. I mean, she got quite a bit of recognition for, what was the movie with Jeremy Renner in it? Hurt Locker. She did get some recognition for that, quite a bit actually. But she's been directing for a long, long time, and I think the first time I noticed her name on a movie was this movie called Near Dark. This was an independently funded movie, but it has the mark of the James Cameron dynamic all over it. If you're under the tutelage of good people, you become a really great auteur, I guess you could say that. And this is a very unique vampire movie. It's unique in that they never call themselves, it's like The Walking Dead. They never call themselves vampires, just as The Walking Dead never really mentions the word zombies. They basically behave almost like vampires. I mean, they behave very much like vampires, except I hate to mention Twilight. Twilight took a lot of the vampire lore and got rid of it and added new stuff. You know, kind of lame new stuff, but Near Dark did not add anything. They just kind of took away stuff. And what Near Dark did was they got rid of fangs and they got rid of turning into bats. Nobody had the ability to actually fly. At the same time Near Dark was released, or maybe close to the time Near Dark was released, the big hit Lost Boys was released by Joel Schumacher, and that got so much more attention than this, and it was so much more Hollywoodized, and it had such a more well-known cast. It, in my opinion, is nowhere near as unique as this, nowhere near as nuanced as this, or cleverly written, or as adult. The Lost Boys is made for teenagers and younger people, and Near Dark is clearly so much more timeless and so much more adult in nature, made for people of all ages, maybe 15 and older, you know, that I would say can handle it. It has a lot more meanness to it, I would say, you know, really, you know, more menace, believable menace. The Lost Boys is just, to me, very juvenile, and it's just more of a popcorn movie, and I didn't like it at all, really. I don't like The Lost Boys. I like the cast members. I like all the actors that were in The Lost Boys, but I didn't like the story, and I just found it very dated and campy, and it's just extremely, you know, it would make a good review for an 80s period piece, but I don't even like the movie, so I don't even know if I can, you know, find myself reviewing it at some point in the future. Getting back to Near Dark, it is a timeless movie because there are no 80s pop songs. There is a little bit of country and western. There might be one or two 80s pop songs thrown in, but they're so forgettable and so they're such rare, like one-hit wonder ones that you don't really remember them and they don't bother you too much. But the other thing about Near Dark is it takes place in rural Oklahoma, the rural, I would say, plains states, but mostly in Oklahoma. It could be that they drove him into Texas. What it is this young, good-looking guy, and he is extremely good-looking. Adrian Pasdar, he plays this young kid named Caleb, and he's kind of, when you first see him on screen, he comes off as this player. Like he's just, he's checking out this hot chick from a distance, and she's really pretty. She's this blonde, she's got this really cute short haircut, and she's just hanging out eating an ice cream cone, and he thinks she's really hot, and he's gonna go check her out, talk to her, what's that old 90s, he's macking on her, basically. Very, very old phrasing there, but you know what I mean. And he seems like a dick, but quite quickly, he seems to be a sweetheart pretty soon, And he seems to be genuinely fond of her, and she actually becomes very fond of him quite quickly, too. It's like a match made in heaven. And, as they get to know each other over the course of this one evening, he starts noticing things about her that are kind of off, like she's very fidgety, nervous about how close it is getting towards dawn. She's very physically strong compared to him, and horses are afraid of her, animals are afraid of her. They sense something about her. Again, these vampires do not call themselves vampires. That word is not uttered one single time in this movie that I can remember hearing. And you see no fangs. But they do burn when they're exposed to sunlight. And they do... what's the other thing they do? They don't mention garlic or getting stakes in the heart or anything like that, or holy water, nothing like that. But they do burn in sunlight, and they have to stay out of the sunlight. I'm trying to remember another trope, if you will, about vampires. Other than that, they drink blood, but they're not... It's kind of like a 28 Days Later, although this is what I would consider a vampire film, because they do burn up in daylight. Although they just seem to have, without adding any hokey or stupid lame-ass shit like Twilight did, they did remove fangs and bats and steaks and garlic and stuff like that, which I didn't mind at all. Anyway, I'm sort of rambling. Anyway, Caleb demands a kiss from May. Her name is May. And as she's kissing him, she bites him. It's just an instinct with her. She doesn't really mean to. And she kisses him with sincerity about her. She's not fake kissing him like I'm gonna trick him and just bite him because I'm hungry. I think she just bit him because it's an instinct whenever she gets close to somebody's neck. I don't think she kisses people that often. So she bit him, and that's when he begins to turn into a vampire creature. And instead of killing him and feeding on him, she just bites him and just realizes, oh, I bit him. And she runs away. And lo and behold, the sun is still coming up. You'd think she'd just stay there with him. She runs out of his car. He chases her down. He can't catch her because she runs a lot faster. And he's barely starting to be transformed. I don't know where she runs to, but amazingly, she finds her family as they were, whatever. And he's just like, why did she bite me? And as soon as he gets into his truck, he starts realizing that it's, his skin is burning and it's turning black. And then, of course, his truck doesn't start, so he has to walk home. And it's just really weird. The beginning of this is really weird because it's just like she's been worried about the sun coming up, and then she runs off. How does she find those people in that big RV thing? And then he's walking across this big plain, and his body starts smoking, and he's weak, and he keeps falling over and stuff. His dad and his little sister are nearby, wondering where he's been, and they see him, but then they see this big old RV pull up and kidnap him. It's really terrifying to them, and they call the police, and they launch a big search for him. And the police aren't taking them very seriously because they think, well, since he's an adult, he's like maybe in his late teens, early 20s. They figure he's, old enough to know what he wants to do. Maybe he ran away from home or whatever with these people. And the dad's like, no, that's not my son. He wouldn't do that. He's a good kid. And this out of nowhere, this RV just comes driving up, and these characters these are what steal the movie from Caleb and from May. These amazing characters, and most of them are from, like I said, they're from James Cameron movies. Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton, Jeanette Goldstein. Just a little ragtag bunch of vampire, murderers. And they are not only horrifying, menacing, kick-ass, you don't want to fuck with them, in other words, but they're hilarious people. They're hilariously terrifying. They make for excellent entertainment. Bill Paxton plays Severin, and he's this old, I think he's an old, outlaw from the late 1800s. He's dressed, and he's, of course, probably a native Texan like he is in real life. And Jeanette Goldstein plays Diamondback, and she's this really, I don't know what time period she might have been from, but I would say that perhaps Lance Henriksen's character met her in maybe, she just kind of appears to be somebody that could have been a bar girl from the 1900s or the late 1800s, or somebody from maybe in the 1960s or 70s, because her hair is so weird. And she dresses like a biker chick. He could have picked her up as recently as the 70s or 80s, and this takes place in 87. So she might be sort of a baby vampire compared to some of the others. And May, I think she's 4. As far as vampire age, I think she's a 4-year-old. So Diamondback is the mother of the group. That's Jeanette Goldstein. So she has this frosted, bleached kind of hair, and she's really got this, biker chick thing going, and she's a badass, and she's really ruthless, but at the same time very motherly to the one character that everybody is annoyed by, and that's Homer. And he's just this young kind of like, not preteen, I would say mid-teenage kid. Younger than Caleb and May, of course, but, older than... Well, he seems to take a liking later on in the movie to Caleb's sister, who is about, I would say, 6. So maybe he's 8 or 9. I don't know. He just seems older, but maybe that's because he's supposed to be a man trapped in a kid's body. I don't know. Maybe he's only like, chronologically, maybe he's a 12-year-old body or something. I don't know. He's just annoying as hell, though. It's like, it's the same thing, kid syndrome. You know, you had to put a kid in this movie, and it's a very violent movie. It's a little bit too adult to have this one tag-along kid. The little sister is fine. She isn't in the movie that much, and when she is, she's actually quite good. You know, she makes for a really good kind of go-between for Caleb against the family that, you know, is trying to turn him against the world or whatever. But Homer just, you know, I'm kind of, the consensus is pretty clear. He's just an annoying character, and it's probably not the actor's fault. It's just the way he was written. He grabs Caleb's balls and he says, Homer, don't forget my name. Mispronounce it, and I wouldn't want to be you. And it's like, who in the hell is going to mispronounce Homer? What are we going to do? Say Homer? Or Hummer? Or what? It's just, you know, crappy. Just one crappy character in this movie that kind of takes away from the fun a lot of the time. Otherwise, and then Lance Henriksen plays Jesse Cooper, I think his name is. And he's an old Confederate soldier. He's probably the oldest in the group, and therefore he's the toughest, deadliest one out of all of them. And, you know, usually when he says something, everybody says, okay, boss. You know, he's pretty much, you know, don't fuck with him or you get fucked up. So he's really cool. I really love Lance Henriksen. I really enjoy any movie where you get a bunch of people from James Cameron movies together. This is one example where you just have this huge, pleasant surprise. It's like, well, what the hell are these three doing in this movie? This isn't a James Cameron movie. And then you watched it, and it's like, what the fuck? This is fun. This makes Lost Boys look like shit. And it did. It made the Lost Boys look like shit. It's fast-paced. It's fun. It's funny. It's got some genuine violence and scares, shootouts, you know, actual murder sprees, crime sprees, you name it. And the Lost Boys is just like, Plot is getting Caleb to feed for the first time and really become a vampire, because until he actually drinks blood, he's not fully a vampire. He's trying to get, his body is trying to turn, but it will not fully develop until he drinks blood. And he's so reluctant to do that. And he, you know, after they kidnap him and take him, you know, several counties away or whatever, he tries to run away from them. And he says, don't follow me, May. I like you a lot. I really do. But I just can't go any farther with this. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what you did to me. I feel sick. I'm leaving. I'm going home on the next bus. She says, you won't go too far, so he doesn't get too far. He gets very deathly ill, and he ends up having to drink her blood. And he ends up doing that several times. One little spot that I did not notice is while he's walking to the bus station, they've got a theater mural, or theater, what the hell are they called? A theater across the street is playing the movie Aliens, and that was awesome. I didn't notice that until I watched it just a little bit ago. And first time ever, and I've been watching this movie about, you know, once every few years since 1987 when it first came out. Anyway, so Caleb ends up in a really bad existential fight with himself. I'm sick. I don't want to live like this. I can't even eat a candy bar without puking. My body wants blood and nothing else. I can't do this morally, you know, ethically. I'm obliged to not do this. I just can't. and he doesn't have any kind of money to get on a bus to go home, and so he's sucking, and it's really, I found it, when I was a kid, I found it very erotic, honestly. When he was sucking on her wrist, it was almost like he was performing cunnilingus. I'm sorry if I sound disgusting, but it was kind of a sexy scene the way it was shot, because it was like he was just kneeling before her and just sucking on her wrist and, eating it so eagerly and fiercely. He was so eager to have that blood because that's all he could have. That's all his body would let him have. And it was just so strangely erotic to me. It was weird. And I think it was meant to have that effect, because if it had that effect on me, it had to have had that effect on other people. I know I couldn't have been alone. He just keeps fighting with them. It gets worse and worse. Severin especially never liked him much in the first place. I mean, Severin tries, he tries to be, he tries to be civil to him, and they go to bars and they try to get Caleb to, kill people and drink their blood, and they have good times and fun, really fun scenes together. But after a while, Severin loses his patience with Caleb and says he's not going to be one of us. He's never going to be one of us. He doesn't want to kill. He doesn't want to feed on their blood. He doesn't want to kill humans. He's never going to be a vampire or, one of us. They never say the word vampire, like I said. So it ends up being... that family turns on Caleb, and May is stuck in the, middle. She loves Caleb, and yet at the same time she's got this family she's been with for a few years, and you have this stupid little dingling subplot with Homer having this crush on May because he's the one that turned May, and she's much too old for him, and yet he's a boy, a man in a boy's body and stuff like that. And that was, it gets annoying and confusing in that respect. I just prefer to think of, I just scrapped this whole Homer theme. Homer's just, to me, it's like the less I think about him, the better. He's just a tag-along little kid, happens to be part of the group. And they, in the meantime, Caleb's dad and sister have been putting up missing posters of him all over maybe Texas, Oklahoma region, stuff like that, maybe into New Mexico. I don't know how far they travel, but they've probably got him on the news. He's been missing for days, maybe a couple of weeks. I'm not sure exactly how long this, it could be a week, it could be a week, it could be a day or two. It's hard for me to really decipher how long the time span of this movie is, but I think it goes for anywhere between a few days to a couple of weeks, because there's so many scenes of nightclubs and stuff. And they always wear the same clothes day in and day out, and they don't seem to get... They get bloody, but they seem to have the blood cleans itself off miraculously, of course. So, I don't know if I should talk any more about it, because I'd be giving way too much away, but it's really... They're villains you pretty much love. They're not really villains you love to hate either. They're kind of villains that you just like, They're awesome. You love Jesse Cooper, you love Severin, you love Diamondback. Not really fond of Homer. May's not what I would call a villain. And I love Caleb's little sister. She's adorable. And Caleb's dad's a pretty cool guy. He's, he loves his son. He wants to find his son desperately. it's kind of realistically played out where they're just torn up about it and just desperately looking for this missing kid, you know. And Caleb, you know, he's cool. And I really think the actor, you know, Adrian Pasdar is extremely attractive. But this is a great movie. It has there's so many great scenes of, you know, gunplay, violence, bloodshed, gore, you know, just, you know, senseless murders. You know, you name it. It's a hard R. It belongs to be a hard R. It's for grown-ups and older, you know, teens that can handle it. It's not Twilight fuck. It's not anything like that. It's a really great vampire movie. It's, as far as vampire movies, the only one I like, my second favorite vampire movie is Interview with the Vampire, because it's an intelligent movie too. Movies have to be intelligent for me to like them, and why Lost Boys got so much attention compared to this? Well, this was kind of a low-key, you know, it didn't show off, it didn't have a whole lot of advertising behind it, and the Lost Boys had, you know, teen heartthrobs and fashion and hot music, so I think that's why. And Lost Boys, to me, is as dated as all hell, and I didn't like it when it first came out. I thought it sucked ass, so okay, I think that's my review. I don't want to give away the ending to Near Dark, but I highly recommend, if you have not seen Near Dark, directed by Kathryn Bigelow, again, they never mention the word vampire, but it is a vampire movie, and in my opinion, and I highly recommend it. I give it a solid 9.5 to 10 out of 10. The reason I would say 9.5 if I gave it that is because Homer is a little bit annoying. So, that's my review. Bye-bye.